Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. My name is Ron. We're coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody here to our show tonight. Thank you for joining us, everyone. We appreciate you. Please share this video far and wide to your family, to your extended family, to your neighbors and friends, to your social media contacts, and even the people you work with. There's nothing here that can't be shared. This is emergency information that you're going to need. Demon Catman, you appear to be the first one into this program. His sword just came in. Thank you very much for being here, guys. We appreciate it. God bless you all. Folks, we have a lot of things to talk about. One of the first things we talked about earlier this morning was an earthquake that hit off the coast of Northern California. That earthquake was a large earthquake. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Since then, we've had numerous other earthquakes as well. The earthquake that hit was a big one, okay? It was large. We've had large earthquakes hit here ever since, okay? 4.1s, 2 4.9s, 3.4s, 3.5s, 4.3s, 3.3s, and also 3.6. This was a very large earthquake. USGS downgraded it to a 4.9 immediately. A 5.3, 5.4 earthquake, and I actually believe it was stronger than that. I went to the USGS's own back seismologist study page. I went there and pulled up all of the seismographs that recorded the data, the strength of the quake. 160 different seismographs recorded the quake. I put all the data up, categorized it by magnitude. I added it all up. Then I I divided it by 160. And actually it was a lot more than that. I think it was 172 seismographs recorded data. When I found out that this earthquake was a 5.5 earthquake, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This earthquake was much larger than they said it was. Again, this is just proof, one more thing in our basket, proving that they don't want to tell the truth at all. They don't have it in them to tell the truth at all. Now, they call it a 4.9. The 0.9 society is alive and well. Whenever the USGS decides that they want to downgrade an earthquake, they frequently downgrade it to the next 0.9. That's what they did here today. 4.9 earthquake, bull crap. I want to first explain where it was. This was off the Northern California coast, north of Petrolia, probably 4,000 miles north of Petrolia out to sea in the Pacific Ocean. Now, for those of you that have been with me for a very long time, Petrolia is a point in Northern California where a lot of the earthquakes have occurred. Straight out west from Petrolia, there is an earthquake fault called the Gorda Escarpment. That Gorda Escarpment reaches out to the very point 280 miles off the coast. At that point, it meets up with what they call the Gorda Escarpment that runs in a north-northwest direction just like this. About halfway or 3/4 of the way up that Gorda Escarpment is where this 5.3, 5.5 earthquake occurred. Now, there was 4 small earthquakes at 4. Already they're buffering us. Okay, I'm sorry, we're being buffered. I don't know why. I've got a great Wi-Fi connection here. We should not be getting buffered at all. But anyway, up on the Gorda Ridge is where that earthquake hit. Nobody on land felt this earthquake. The waters of the Pacific Ocean absorbed the shock waves from this earthquake. If it had hit on the shoreline, there would have been property damage and possibly large earthquakes can cause injuries, damage, and fatalities. It's happened before and it will happen again. This earthquake was a lot larger than they said it was. Fortunately, again, it was offshore. Now, this is also in an area that encompasses the Cascadia subduction zone region. The Cascadia subduction zone runs from Northern California all the way up north into Canada, to Queen Charlotte Island in Canada. That's 4,000, 5,000 miles. The Cascadia subduction zone. Over just offshore from Seattle to Tacoma, Washington, we have the Cascadia subduction zone that runs north and south there. Just west of that, we have the Juan de Fuca Plate. Somewhere in that region between the Cascadia subduction zone down here to the south. Yes, it's buffering bad here. I'm even getting buffered here. Now, down here to the south where these earthquakes occurred today, this is on the southern Cascadia subduction zone region. It's a huge region, everybody. This is still the Cascadia subduction zone region. When the big earthquake occurs, that seismic energy is going to reach up to Alaska. It's also going to come down here to the Triple Junction. The Cascadia fault zone meets the Gorda Escarpment and the San Andreas Fault just like this. The San Andreas Fault meets there at the Gorda Escarpment and the Cascadia subduction zone. It's called the Triple Junction. At that Triple Junction, Mr. Goldfinger, who worked for the state of Oregon State University system, the chief geologist and professor, in 2020, he met with a bunch of other geologists in San Francisco at a meeting. He said at that meeting 4 years ago that it is highly likely that the Cascadia megathrust earthquake zone, earthquake fault, would trigger the San Andreas. I think I explained this somewhat last night. He said it would trigger the San Andreas Fault. And that fault runs all the way from that Gorda Escarpment at the Triple Junction all the way south into Mexico and down the coast of southern Mexico. So when this major earthquake hits, we don't know when. 2, 3, 4 years. I don't think it's going to be much more than 3. But when it hits, it's going to transfer that energy north to Alaska and all the way down the fault zone, all the way through California. What happened last night and today is likely to happen many more times. Many, many more times. Before this earthquake hit on the Gorda Ridge, we didn't have too many earthquakes that hit here. Most of the earthquakes that have hit are on that spit of earthquake fault that runs directly west from the state of California, the Gorda Escarpment. 5.3, 5.5, 3.9, 3.5, 2.5 earthquakes have hit all up and down that entire Gorda Escarpment. We've seen it. We've talked about it. We've covered it. Earthquake faults have hit on the Blanco fracture zone. 5.5s, 5.3s, 5.1s, all over the place. I believe this is the first time in 5 years that we've had an earthquake on the Gorda Ridge. So this is new. This is somewhat of a relief of energy. That's all this was a little bit of release of energy. This 5.3, 5.5 earthquake, whatever it is, and at this point, it's over a large earthquake. Okay? USGS changed their, what shall I say, the naming of what they call 5 earthquakes. 5.0, 5.9. They call them moderate earthquakes. They're not moderate at all. They're very damaging, deadly earthquakes. I don't know. I kind of understand why they did it. They want to make people think that, oh, nothing's going to happen. Moderate earthquake energy won't kill you. Yes, it will. It'll kill you dead. Okay, I've seen it happen. Now, we are going to see a lot more energy in this same area in the very near future. Today's earthquakes are not the end of it, nor were any of the others that have happened here. We're going to see a lot more. Prior to this, we also had what USGS determined was a 6.4 earthquake off the coast of Ferndale, California, about a year ago. As it turned out, that was an 8.4 earthquake. I proved it beyond all shadows of a doubt. I showed with the USGS's own information how strong that earthquake really was. And it did damage on land. It threw buildings off of foundations. It was responsible for the death of 2 people. 2 people died as a result of that earthquake. A lot stronger than they said it was. That's what they do. Heaven forbid they show exactly what is going on. We're going to see many more of those instances as well. I believe some of those instances of 6.0, 6.5, 7.0, 7.5 earthquakes are going to happen in Oregon or off the coast of Oregon and or Washington. I believe we're going to have some smaller earthquakes than the Cascadia 10.0 before that 10.0 actually hits. Everyone needs to be prepared. You absolutely need to be prepared. Now, what else happened this morning? Almost immediately after this earthquake hit off the state of California, almost directly southwest of this earthquake in Japan, they had another very large earthquake in Japan. This earthquake was just barely off the coast. One earthquake hit on land in a very populated area. Near Honshu, Japan, on Honshu, Japan. This earthquake hit in a populated area. A 5.1 earthquake hit 5 kilometers northeast in Chinomiya, Japan. This earthquake was 19.8 kilometers deep, 20 kilometers deep. This hit primarily in a populated area. It also affected a semi-populated area, which was agricultural. There has been damage from that earthquake. I don't believe they've had any fatalities, but there has been damage. But this was not the only large earthquake that has hit. I want to make that point perfectly clear. This morning, 4:35 this morning, the earthquake that hit in California just a second. The earthquake that hit in California was, I'm going to tell you the time in just a second. That was at 5:28. So the Japanese earthquake hit before this one did. Now, there were a lot, like I said, there were 5 separate aftershocks before this 5.1. Now, the 4.3 hit at 02:31 Pacific time. The 3.4 hit at 4:14 a.m. this morning. A 4.1 hit at 2:42 a.m. this morning. A 3.6 hit at 2:08 this morning, 8 minutes after 2 a.m. A 3.5 hit at 5:25 a.m. this morning. That is an aftershock of this earthquake. The 4.5 hit at 5:49. 5:49 a.m. this morning. That was the aftershock. And I don't believe it was a 4.9 either. I believe that was above a 5.0 as well.
Are you on your machine?
I should be.
You're on your machine?
No, I'm not on this one. I'm on the one
The
downstairs.
one that's not on?
Oh, brother. Anyway, guys, I'm sorry about that. We at least had 2 5.0s here off the coast of California. The 2 other large earthquakes in Japan were large. One of them was on the coast and the other was off the coast. Regardless, there was damage over in Japan. There may be continual damage and more earthquakes over there in the coming days. I don't believe it will be the last earthquake to hit Japan today. Also in the Sea of Japan on the west side of Japan, the Noto Peninsula also got hit today. 3 earthquakes hit there. They were minor earthquakes, fortunately. There's no damage over in Noto, Japan. But earthquakes continue to hit there. Why? Because there was a major earthquake that hit there 3 or 4 weeks ago. Earthquakes are going to hit Noto, Japan many times in the coming days and months. When we get such a very major earthquake as a 7.4 did, it only goes to show you, and we've seen this in many other areas, very major earthquake like that. Earthquakes can happen over in Turkey today, 0.5, 1.7 tremors. I understand that. Earthquake, 2 points. They're buffering us again. Folks, we need to watch what's going on. We're going to have more of these earthquakes all the time. Today over in the Aleutian Islands to the north, we had another 5.0 earthquake. Southwest of Adak, Alaska, in the Aleutian Island chain of 5.0. Yesterday we had a 5.0 and a 5.1. There is large energy holdup in the Aleutian Islands. This only proves it. 3 large earthquakes over in the Aleutian Island Adak area in the last 48 hours. That says a lot. The seismic energy is there. It's moving upwards into Alaska proper. I fully expect to see a very strong or major earthquake up near Anchorage sometime this year. Okay? Yes, you could call that earthquake forecasting. And I know this venue does not like it. I just don't care. I need to put the word out that things are happening, that people need to stand by for what's going on. Why stand by? Because people's lives depend on it. If you're prepared for it to happen, you're more than likely going to not just be prepared, you're going to have everything ready and be expecting it. So when it does happen, you're not among the fatalities or the injured. And if you are, you're able to take care of yourselves and your families. That's why we are prepared. That is the whole backbone of our channel, being prepared. This channel is not just about earthquakes. We talked about storms. We talked about hurricanes. We talked about cyclones, haven't we? We've talked about fires. We've talked about earthquakes. We've talked about tornadoes. We've talked about explosions. We've talked about train derailments releasing toxic clouds, toxic chemicals, and another major fire after that. And we haven't just covered one train derailment, it's been many. We haven't heard too much about train derailments lately, have we? I believe they're still happening. We're just not hearing about it. The mainstream media doesn't like to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it because if they do, they'll be lambasted with questions. Questions that they can't answer because they've not done their homework. They've not completed investigations of what's going on. Everybody must be prepared. And it doesn't matter to me where you live. You can live here in the United States. You can live in Japan. You can live in Scandinavia. Yes, they had earthquakes today too. You can live in England where Demon Catman lives. You can live almost anywhere. Romania got hit today by earthquakes. Croatia got hit by earthquakes. Italy got hit by 50 earthquakes today. There were earthquakes in Switzerland, in Germany, France, Spain, all over the place. There were 20 earthquakes in Iran and Iraq today. Incredible, huh? They're not stopping. Earthquakes don't stop. We have storms we're worried about. Right now in the southern portion of the country, we're talking about New Mexico, southern Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi. Those areas of the southern United States are seeing storms. Here in South and North Carolina tomorrow. Today it's been fairly mild with temperatures in the 50s. Last night we had temperatures down even to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. That's cold. That's minus degrees Celsius. Tomorrow, the temperature will not exceed a high of about 44 degrees here where I live in North Carolina. And it's going to be a cold rain here as well. It's going to be a miserable day, the forecasters tell us. I don't count misery by the cold or the rain. I count misery when it's horrible, not just outside, but everywhere. I'm not going to say it's a miserable day unless I have to be out in that crap. It's not going to be fun here at all. Snow. A lot of snow. It's buffering here really bad, guys. I'm sorry about that. American Mutt says you freeze up in the weirdest position. I know. And I can't help that, unfortunately. One of my dogs is acting like she wants to come up and... No? Okay. I was acting like she wanted to come up here. Anyway, guys, stuff is happening everywhere. Everyone needs to be ready for it. Just a few minutes ago here in the chat, someone said that things, the storm-wise, were really bad around England this past year. It happened. You guys got storms from the United States. Hurricanes that spun off from the United States and spun out into the Atlantic Ocean and spun over to England. We covered part of that. We saw storms hitting the English West Coast. We saw waves going up over seawalls. We saw trees knocked into cars. I didn't see anybody hurt, but I imagine some people were. But folks, the reason we talk about it is to make sure people are prepared. Today in Iceland, speaking of England, northwest of England is Iceland. Iceland's earthquakes that USGS isn't even talking about. 35 earthquakes hit Iceland in the past 24 hours. Some of those earthquakes are volcanic earthquakes because magma is moving beneath the surface of the earth, the crust of the earth. Also, they have the mid-Atlantic fault that runs directly through Iceland, directly through the center of Iceland. The mid-Atlantic fault is expanding. I believe and scientists also believe that because of that expansion, Iceland is being ripped apart. No one knows right now how bad that rip is going to be. Whether Iceland is going to be completely separate into two parts, we don't know. But there's also volcanoes and magma we have to worry about. Right now in Iceland, right beneath the Svartsengi power plant. If you've been with us any time at all since last November, the Svartsengi power plant is north and west of Grindavik. Grindavik was a community of about 3,800 people. 3,800 people, somewhere in that vicinity. Back in November, they had a bunch of earthquakes, and it was feared that a volcanic eruption was going to occur in Grindavik. So they evacuated Grindavik, lock, stock, and barrel. They would not allow anybody in. After 2 weeks of evacuation, they started letting some people in to get belongings out of their homes. More and more people were let in only during daylight hours. They were under the assumption that that's all they had, that they might have to evacuate and get out of there within 30 minutes' time. That's what they're saying again now. Yes, they're still saying that Greenville could get hit with an eruption in the town. Where the power plant is northwest of Greenville and the Blue Lagoon Spa. Underneath the spa and the power plant is a great big huge magma reservoir. The magma reservoir is expanding. It's lifting up the ground at the power plant of another eruption. And if that's the case, the Blue Lagoon would possibly be with it. Authorities are right now letting people at the Blue Lagoon be there. People are basking in the hot water created by the magma beneath it. They're being allowed to be there. Nobody's allowed to be in Greenville. However, I found out today that that's not quite the case. Authorities have let in tourist people, tourist buses into Greenville. People have found out that there are tourists taking pictures of homes that were burned and run into by magma back in January. Tourists taking selfies of homes that burned to the ground. That's just wrong. It's wrong on so many levels. It's incredible that they would even allow that. Authorities, and I'm talking to people in Greenville and all over Iceland right now. There are people from Iceland that are watching this program. Folks, you need to get your authorities in line and not allow tourists to be anywhere near Greenville. If no residents are allowed to be in there, no tourists are also allowed to be in there. They should be taken out of there. If anybody is there without permission of civil defense or the country itself of Iceland, they should be arrested for trespassing. They should not be there. There is a reason that the residents were pulled out of there. There just happened to be an eruption back in January. Two separate and distinct eruptions. One was on an earthquake fault. Huge fissures opened up, and magma spewed up to the surface, and lava flowed all over the landscape. Then a second fissure opened up, and more lava flowed all over the landscape and went into northwestern Greenville and burned down homes. It was a terrible situation. And yet there are tourists that have been taking pictures in Greenville. That is wrong. It's totally disrespectful. It's disrespectful from the people that lived in those homes. It's bad. Roxy Trim, one of my friends and one of our mods here. It's disrespectful to the folks there in Iceland. They should be ashamed of themselves, and I agree. Watermelon Cat asks if I'm a veteran. It doesn't matter. Let's stay on topic, ladies and gentlemen. Let's stay on topic here. I'm not going to answer any questions unless it's on topic until I ask for questions at the end of this program. Then I'll be more than happy to answer questions at that time. Ray Spurs says it's 35 degrees in Haven, Connecticut. Not surprising. That whole area is going to be very cold tonight. Autumn is asking, can we give you a shout? I just did. Folks, this is important, or I would not even be talking right now. Janelle says she's praying for us and God bless. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Deborah Hoganson is saying it's 70 degrees in Las Vegas. And yes, I pronounce it with two S's. I just happen to be Swedish. I'm a Swedish American. Deborah, your folks or your family probably is too. Anyway, folks, this stuff is happening. Like I said, there was a 5.0 earthquake over near the Adak, Alaska area. The entire Aleutian Island fault zone is moving. Earthquakes over the entire fault zone into the Alaska Peninsula. More earthquakes over in southern Alaska, just north of Anchorage. Just north of Anchorage, there's a 2.2 earthquake there. Trapper Creek, Alaska, just north of Anchorage. Across the waterway, the Cook Inlet here, we have more earthquakes there. 3.4 earthquakes near Skeetna, Alaska, which is just north of Mount Redoubt, another volcano. And yes, the volcanoes in Alaska are moving. They're waking up. We go over into Denali National Park. In the central part of Denali National Park, there is a 2.1 earthquake. I believe this earthquake is on the flanks of Mount McKinley, the southern flank of Mount McKinley. Another earthquake on the northeast flank of Mount McKinley, a 1.4 tremor. Further northeast, another 3.0 earthquake in Denali National Park. To the west, southwest from Mount McKinley, a 2.1 earthquake. West, southwest of Mount McKinley, a 2.1. More earthquakes north of Mount Denali National Park. Saltja, Alaska again. 2 weeks ago, we had a 5.1 earthquake in Saltja, Alaska. More earthquakes are hitting there. Today, a 1.8, a 1.3, and an earthquake that just happened, a 1.4 there. Northwest of there, Rampart, Alaska. We've had earthquakes in Rampart, Alaska before. A 1.8 in Rampart, and almost directly west of there in Tanana, Alaska, a 1.8. Tanana is a site of another volcano. Again, the volcanoes in Alaska are real. They are very, very real. Going to the southwest, over in the Kuril Islands, just south of Kamchatka Peninsula, there's a moderate 4.1 earthquake there in the Sea of Okhotsk. This one is 479 kilometers deep. That's a fairly decent deep earthquake. Folks, when we have an earthquake 479 kilometers deep, this earthquake is going to propagate a larger, shallower earthquake. This being 4.1, we're going to see probably a 5.0 earthquake come Okhotsk or of Kamchatka Peninsula. A 5.0 earthquake in the Kamchatka Peninsula. That's what these lesser, deeper earthquakes cause. Larger, shallower quakes. Larger, stronger, shallower quakes. We talked about the earthquakes in Japan. Let's go south to Taiwan. West central Taiwan got hit by another earthquake today. Pizitou, Taiwan. P-I-Z-I-T-O-U, Taiwan. South central Taiwan. A moderate 4.4 hit there, and it's a shallow quake. 10.0 kilometers deep. Folks, the Philippines got hit with earthquakes all over the world. There's about 3 times that. I want to go now over to Mindanao Island, Philippines. Mindanao Island, Philippines is the largest island in the southern Philippines, or in all of Philippines throughout the country. Mindanao, folks, had multiple earthquakes just off the northeast coast of Mindanao, Philippines. Today, right close to the Philippines, right close to that island, they had a 4.8 earthquake, a moderate 4.8 strong earthquake. Moderate means moderate damage. This was only 67 kilometers deep. This is a fairly shallow quake. People felt that quake. Going offshore, they've been hit by several large earthquakes. The strongest was a 5.4. The next strongest was a 5.3. The 5.4 was 11.4 kilometers deep. The 4.3 has since been downgraded to a 4.9 naturally. The 5.3 was downgraded to a 4.9. The 0.9 society is alive and well here. Also, 2 other earthquakes hit. Today, at 12:25 Eastern Time today, another 4.8 earthquake hit right next to the earthquake that hit at 5.4. Just southeast of there, another 4.6 earthquake hit, 35 kilometers deep. The 4.8 was also 35 kilometers deep. We've had at least 14 earthquakes here in the Philippines area. USGS says 5. Okay? This just tells you what we've been talking about. Raz says I hurt his feelings. I'm sorry. I don't know how I hurt your feelings. Okay? I can't make everybody happy. I try. Over in Indonesia, naturally, there are about 25 to 28 earthquakes. USGS is showing 3. How dare they? I know for a fact over in Sumatra, which is the western side of Indonesia, there are at least 3 earthquakes, all of them 4.5, 4.3. They're not showing those. Heaven forbid. South of Java today, we had another large 5.0 earthquake. South of Central Java. This was 10.0 kilometers deep, 6.2 miles deep. To the east of Java, a 4.4 earthquake hit near Ende, ENDE, Indonesia. A 4.4, 87 kilometers deep. West of there, Tual, Indonesia. We've had multiple earthquakes there this week. Today, a 4.6 earthquake hit, 32.4 kilometers deep. Over in Papua New Guinea, multiple earthquakes have hit there. USGS has not said a darn word about those. Over in the Solomon Islands, we've had another large earthquake there. A 5.0 earthquake hit there, 10 kilometers deep, 6.2 miles deep. We go further to the east. The Loyalty Islands, southeast of the Solomons. A 4.4 moderate earthquake hit again today. 28.1 kilometers deep. To the northeast from there, Levuka, Fiji again. Levuka, Fiji's got hit multiple times this week, this time with a 4.4 moderate earthquake there. This one was a very deep earthquake, 597 kilometers deep. That means this 4.4 is going to propagate or be responsible for a much larger earthquake. Deep quakes propagate stronger, shallower earthquakes. For this quake being a 4.4, this quake is going to propagate probably a 5.4, 5.5 earthquake, either in the Fiji or the Tongan region, or it could be over in the Solomon Islands region as well. But it will propagate a larger, stronger quake in the next 72 hours to 10 days. Yes, I'm forecasting again. I've been watching these shallower, deep earthquakes, and I've been right almost every time. Today, over in the Indian Ocean, on the Antarctic Ridge, we had another earthquake over at Prince Edward Island. This is the third earthquake this week at Prince Edward Island. This happened last night at 8:11 p.m., 20:11 p.m. military time. A 4.9 earthquake, 10 kilometers deep. A shallow earthquake, 5.0 earthquake. But again, they downgraded it. It was not a 4.9 earthquake. To the north, over in Africa, we had another moderate earthquake there. A moderate 4.8 earthquake hit in Zumba. Not Zumba, but Zambia, which is a country in Africa, in Eastern Africa, Southeastern Africa. Yeah, we're being buffered again. Anyway, guys, also in the Indian Ocean, north of the Carlsberg Ridge, just south of Pasni, Pakistan, we had another moderate earthquake there. That was a 4.1 earthquake. I talked about earthquakes in Europe and the Middle East. Over in the Canary Islands, we've had 3 minor earthquakes there. No big deal. Okay? Those happen, and they are just out in the ocean of the Atlantic Ocean. This time they did not hit any islands in the Canary Islands at all. The seismic energy was absorbed by the seawater of the Atlantic Ocean. Going north, the Azores got hit 3 times. Twice just southwest of Portugal. 2 earthquakes also hit over just east of the North Mid-Atlantic Fault. Those islands in the Azores there. Minor earthquakes there. One more earthquake to talk about. It was on the Mid-Atlantic Fault, just south of Iceland. This time, it's on the Mid-Atlantic Fault that's called the Reykjanes Peninsula. I'm sorry, not the Reykjanes Peninsula, the Reykjanes Ridge, or the Reykjanes Ridge if you read it literally. The Icelandic people call it the Reykjanes Peninsula, or the Reykjanes Ridge. This was a 4.7 moderate earthquake, also 10 kilometers deep. Okay? That's what's going on around the world. One other earthquake north of Iceland, near Svalbard. There was a moderate 4.7 earthquake that hit earlier today. USGS has not even shown that earthquake. That's the kind of people that the USGS are. Heaven forbid that they show what is going on around the world. I don't believe they ever will show the true earthquakes hitting. USGS is saying there's 285 earthquakes worldwide. I call crap on that. If you multiply that times 3, you're probably getting close. With all the earthquakes over in the Turkey-Syria border area itself, let's add another 80 earthquakes to there. All over Europe, including Italy and France. Let's throw up another 100 earthquakes there. And we haven't even talked about what is hit over in the United States yet. I can guarantee you they have not shown all the earthquakes at all. Why do I say that? I started looking at earthquakes in Southern California today. USGS is only recording a couple of earthquakes in the Imperial Valley, Southern California area. They're full of crap. There's about 80 plus earthquakes just on the Calipatria seismogram. 80 earthquakes on the Calipatria seismogram. And that's just talking about that small area on the southeastern side of the Salton Sea. Just there. The Imperial Valley has had about 8 earthquakes and dozens, and I'm saying dozens, of minor earthquakes and tremors. Westmoreland to the north has probably 24 minor earthquakes and tremors. If we go over to El Centro to the west, El Centro has 25 earthquakes 3.0 and greater. 3.0 and greater. They have dozens of minor earthquakes and tremors. So folks, just in that area, Southern California alone, there's probably 200 earthquakes in the Imperial Valley that USGS is not even accounting for. Not talking about all the earthquakes in Los Angeles area too. Playa del Rey, Marina del Rey area along the northwest coast around Los Angeles. There are bunches of tremors there and one minor earthquake there. I can go all over the Los Angeles Valley. I can go out to the extended area in Orange County. I can probably come up with 200 or 300 more earthquakes and tremors the USGS is not even talking about. For those of you that live in Southern California, you folks are going to be hit with a very large to major earthquake very soon. All the elements are there. The seismic energy is in the Los Angeles area. It's there. You need to know it's there. You need to get your preparedness kits together. You need to have an emergency preparedness plan. I'm not kidding in the least. If you don't have those things there, when that major earthquake hits you, you're going to be crap out of luck. Number one, if you live anywhere near the epicenter, you're not going to be able to travel very far because the roads are going to be blocked. There's going to be fissures that open up that'll block roadways. There will be accidents all over the highways and the roadways. Promise. Promise. People are going to be hurt or killed. The last time we had a 6.9 earthquake in Northridge, that's exactly what happened. I kid you not. Homes and businesses were flattened, pancaked. Property damage in the millions of billions of dollars. It's going to happen, but more severely this time. I don't know where it's going to hit, whether it's going to be Northridge or anywhere else. Rancho Cucamonga, downtown Los Angeles, Camarillo, just for starters. Could be happening in Loma Linda. Could be happening in the Laguna Niguel area. San Juan Capistrano. Could be happening north of there. It doesn't really matter. It's going to hit. It's going to disrupt your life. You're probably not going to be able to go to work for a while. You need to be making preparations for that day. Sleeping Volcanoes here, one of my mods that I highly admire. She says, yep, and bridges are going to be collapsed on the vehicles. Many people were killed the last earthquake that hit. Los Angeles has been hit many times, not just by the Northridge earthquake anyway. The reason I talk about Northridge is because I was there after the quake happened. I knew what the aftershocks did. The aftershocks also collapsed buildings, apartment buildings, homes, falling down onto cars that were in the parking spaces beneath those buildings. Oh, yeah. Richard Smith says he's been kicked a lot. I'm sorry about that, Richard. We're also getting buffered here. Don't know why, but we are. And I have a very strong Wi-Fi system here. I shouldn't be getting buffered at all. Sleeping Volcano said she lived there during the big earthquakes and it was horrendous. I know it is. And not just that. Producer Authentic is here in the chat. Is fire down? I think you're talking about NASA fire. I don't know. I haven't checked NASA fire today. There are hot spots everywhere, literally, all over the United States and all over Europe. I promise you, hot spots everywhere. Hot spots all over Greenland. It's amazing. Everybody needs, and also not just Greenland, but Iceland as well. Texas. Producer Authentic says Texas. Is the fire completely out? No, it's not. It's still moving. Tomorrow night, I'll have a full report about that fire as well. Texas is still on fire. It's going to be for a while. The rain today should have calmed the fire down some. That's what they were hoping. Now, I do not have any information about Biden visiting Texas as he was supposed to be doing. He was supposed to be visiting southern Texas down at the border. Like I said yesterday, whenever someone from the administration goes to the border, they put away all of the migrants. They clear them out of the area. So there's a photo op with the president showing everything normal, nothing going on. Again, that's just a photo op. Okay? Sleeping Volcano says the fool only went down to Brownsville. Brownsville is nothing. Brownsville is nothing. Unreal. Linda Covington is also talking about liquefaction. Liquefaction is going to be a huge item in Los Angeles or anywhere where an earthquake hits. Liquefaction is a process where when the earth shakes, it brings up the water, groundwater, to the level of the surface of the earth, into the area populated by sand and loamy material, loamy soil. It turns that loamy soil into quicksand, literally. If anybody is standing in that area when liquefaction occurs, you're going to sink into the loamy soil. Power poles, light poles, cars, buildings, homes are going to sink down into the sand. It's called liquefaction. It happens everywhere where there's an earthquake and loamy soil. Okay, I've seen it happen. Okay, it happens. It happens almost every time, if not every time. So we can expect that to happen as well. Folks, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty at all. I'm just telling you. I want you to be aware of what's happening. More than anything, I want you to be ready. Because it's going to strike when you least expect it. And when it happens, you're going to be blown away. You're literally going to be blown away. You need to be ready. We talked about emergency preparedness kits. We talked about writing an emergency preparedness plan. I've been talking about this for nearly 5 years. April 3rd, 1 month from Sunday, will be my 5-year anniversary on the air. Folks, we've been talking about preparedness. We've been talking about earthquakes. We've been talking before people actually get off their tail. Okay, we're back. We got buffered again. Folks, I want to talk to you about another earthquake, 2 earthquakes that hit over in Australia. South Central Australia got hit by a 2.30 earthquake along the coastline of southeastern Australia. Southwestern Australia also got hit near Niabing, Western Australia. A 2.1 earthquake hit there. USGS is not telling anybody about it. What a farce. Yes, I said what a farce. I said there were multiple earthquakes over off of northeastern Mindanao, Philippines. There's at least 11 to 12 earthquakes off the coast of Mindanao, Philippines today. USGS shows 5. Folks, you can't be any more realistic. It can't be any more realistic than that. Those are the earthquakes that hit off of Mindanao, Philippines. USGS shows 5. Okay? Stupid. Absolutely insane. It's just insane. Over in Indonesia, look at all the earthquakes that hit in Indonesia. And we're not showing all the earthquakes over here in Sumatra. Okay? Myanmar, Cambodia also got hit with earthquakes. 2.6, 3.5, 2.4s. I talked about Afghanistan and Tajikistan. Look at all those earthquakes there. USGS shows none. None. I'm going to try to show you some of the earthquakes that hit in the Turkey-Syria border region. Look at all those. Look at all those, guys. USGS no earthquakes at all. And that's just part of the earthquakes. Look at the rest of earthquakes covering Turkey. Incredible. Incredible lies that they want to spread, or don't want to spread, let's put it that way. France, Spain, and into the Canary Islands today. Look at that. Unreal. Uncut and picking real. South America, look at all those earthquakes. And Central America as well. They're not even showing half of the earthquakes. And this is just the European agency showing these earthquakes. Just the European agency showing these earthquakes. Central America, 25 plus earthquakes in Central America. Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, and El Salvador. That's just today. That's just today. Southern Mexico near Guatemala. Look at all these. That's just those. And let's add these into it that are south of Puerto Vallarta. Manzanillo, that area. The resort areas of Mexico. They're not showing any of that. In the Gulf of California today, a 4.1 earthquake hit in the center of the Gulf of California today. A 4.1 earthquake on the San Andreas Fault in the Gulf of California. Crazy, huh? Yes, it's insane. It's insane. Earthquakes in Southern California, look at that. I'm telling you the truth. USGS cannot even come close to that. They can't even come close to that. That's what's sad. We have a small swarm of earthquakes in southwestern Texas today. 1.6, 1.7, 1.6, 2.30, 2.30 and 1.6. So they're mostly 1.6 and one minor 2.30 earthquake in southwestern Texas. That's Toyah, Texas. Toyah, Texas. Central Texas. Coahoma, Texas. A 2.30 today. Okay. Let's go east into Prague, Oklahoma. Prague, Oklahoma has gotten hit with another 1.21 earthquake, tremor. We've seen 4.3 earthquakes get hit here in Prague, Oklahoma. Oklahoma is famous for earthquakes as a result of fracking operations. 586,000 pumps and jacks all over Oklahoma, literally. I'm not joking. Let's go north into Illinois. Taylorville, Illinois. Taylorville, Illinois today had a 2.03 minor earthquake. Look at the relationship between this earthquake and the New Madrid Fault. This is at the north end of the New Madrid Fault. Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, the north end of the New Madrid Fault. And they are only showing earthquakes that they want to show us. If I pulled up seismographs from this area, which I hope to soon do with the new computer, we're going to show you a lot more earthquakes than that. Okay? Don Patogas here in the chat, a dear friend and a mod of mine, says, folks scoff at the truth when it's perceived to violate the convenience or disrupt the status quo. Ask the guidance of the still small voice of discernment, truth in the management of situational experiences. Absolutely the truth. Over in Tennessee, eastern Tennessee, 2 earthquakes, a 2.5 and a 1.3 earthquake right there. Right there. Tennessee getting hit. And I could show earthquakes all over Tennessee. We tend to show you at least 2 places in Tennessee where earthquakes hit. It's unreal, guys. And those areas are getting hit hard. Real hard. Folks, it's happening. It's not likely to stop. It's not going to stop. The reason I'm showing you all this, I want you to be concerned. I want you to be prepared. Very well prepared. I didn't even show you Scandinavia today. Earthquakes in Scandinavia as well. I told you before when I used to live in Scandinavia in the 70s. Yes, I speak Swedish. I lived in Scandinavia and Sweden in the 70s, and we did not ever see or feel an earthquake. And I spoke every day with people all over Sweden, every day. And never did they ever say anything about earthquakes. And they would have had they been there. Earthquakes have started hitting Scandinavia in the past year and a half. Earthquakes are hitting all over Europe now, literally. Everybody needs to be prepared. Even my friend Catman, Demon Catman from England. There are things happening where he lives. Everyone needs to be prepared. We have many other people from England and all over the world here. I'm asking all of you to really think where you're at. Think about what you're doing, why we're here and where we're going. Because one day soon, things are going to happen where you are. I hope they don't happen to you. But if they do, we need to be prepared. I'm only giving you information as I see it. And I'm giving you scientific information, proving what's going on. Proving beyond a shadow of a doubt what's going on. We all need to be prepared, whatever it takes. Having a preparedness plan, a preparedness kit, food and water, clothing, jackets or heavy coats for snow or rain. You need water. You need water. You need first aid kits. You need personal hygiene items as well. You need comfort food. If you're going to be involved in a disaster, it will be pretty rough without some kind of comfort food. I'm asking everybody to get with it, to make sure you have food storage. Rotate your food storage as you buy new product, put it behind the old product and use the old product first. Make sure you always have good food. Don't use any canned food that is bulging. That could kill you, make you very sick. If you think any packaged food is past dates and it looks bad or it smells bad, don't eat it. Be very careful with your food. If you have dry goods such as flour, sugar, salt, if you have oatmeal, if you had noodles, pasta, put it in great big 5-gallon plastic sealable totes. That will keep it fresh. Make it sure it's food grade plastic totes. You all probably know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about 5-gallon barrels with handles on them, sealable from the top. Make sure you have those to put your food in, to make sure you have good food always. Okay? If you had flour and oats and stuff, you could put a bay leaf down, a 2 or 3, 4 bay leaf down in that plastic inside the product. That will keep the weevils and any other unnecessary insects out of it. You need to be prepared. We're only giving you this information as a guideline. But you need to get prepared, and you need to get prepared immediately. What we've been talking about is hitting everywhere. Not just where I live or where Dawn lives or where Linda lives or Sleeping Volcano or anyone else. It's hitting where you live. We have a lot of people that follow this channel in Southern California. You folks are getting hit, you know it. You're feeling it. Everyone needs to do this and do this immediately, if not sooner. I care. Diane Kelman says, thank you for caring about us. I do care. I've been doing this for all but 5 years. I have a lot more things that I could be doing with my time rather than prepare a presentation for all of you every day, which I do. Sometimes up to 8 to 9 to 10 hours a day. I start off in the mornings and don't quit until after I get through with this program. And many times I don't quit until long after that because things continue to happen. And I've been known to come right back on the air after a program and come on the air to tell you about things that are happening to save somebody's life. That's how much I care. I don't think it'll ever stop until I can't continue anymore, meaning I can't breathe anymore. I'm going to continue to do this until I absolutely can't anymore. I believe in you as you have believed in me. I don't take that lightly. I take that responsibility seriously. You guys care about what I say. I hope you all care about it as much as I do. I care about you and love you. You are my Emergency Management Associates family. Some of you are even closer than that. And you all know who you are. Texas Lady's been here for a very long time. She's someone I greatly admire and I care about. She says, yes, many hours put in here by Ron. So much appreciated, as well as the mods. Yes, I can't forget about our mods. Our mods are some of the best in the business, and they're helping us control the trolls. There are trolls all over our channel the last week. We appreciate our mods greatly. We love you guys. We really do. Love you very much. Now, folks, as I've said before, if anything else happens tonight, we'll be back on the air to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available. Yes, that earthquake hit off Northern California early this morning. I did not come on the air till later this morning. Why? Because I was processing the data, so I would be able to give you up-to-date information about what exactly happened. That's what I do. I find it very foolish for anyone to come on the air to talk about it. Yes, it did happen. But in talking about it, it'll get everybody concerned and overwhelmed. I don't want to have people overwhelmed. Yes, it did happen this morning. It was off the coast and nobody felt it. The ocean waters of the North Pacific absorbed the shock waves. Fortunately, it's not likely to happen again this way. It could happen on land, and if so, it could devastate many lives. It could. I want you to be prepared, and I love you, and I appreciate you so much. Franchise Maroon saying, much appreciated, Ron and Mods, how you all are doing this evening. I'm late today. Franchise, please go to the beginning of this program once it's over to find out exactly what we talked about today. There's a lot of information here today. Now, as I've been doing for a very long time now, I've been conducting a devotional after this program is over. Please don't leave. This information is very important as well. Today I'm going over into the Philippians 2nd chapter. There, Paul talks to the saints in Philippi. The saints should be of one mind and one spirit. Every knee shall bow to Christ. The saints must work out their salvation. And Paul faces martyrdom with joy in chapter 2. He begins in verse 1 here, and I'm going just to verse 7. If there be therefore any consolation in Christ, if any comfort of love, any fellowship of the Spirit, if any bowels and mercy, fulfill ye my joy, that ye might be like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord and of one mind. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem each other, and each other better things of others. That's beautiful, isn't it? Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. That's how I see myself. That's how I see each of us. Paul's counsel to the saints doesn't just apply to the saints in Philippi. Paul's counsel applies to each one of us. Let nothing be done in strife or vainglory. Fulfill ye my joy, that ye might be like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord and of one mind. If any comfort of love, if any fellowship of the Spirit, if any bowels and mercy. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. Let's be of one mind and one spirit, having faith in Christ, and all things will be added unto us. That's the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Let us be of same mind, same heart, and same love, joy and love for each other. Christ taught us that. Christ taught us that. And we must abide by the same love that Jesus Christ shown to others. Fact. Now, one thing I need to talk about before we leave. Way up in the Baltic Sea today, way up far north, farther than the Mid-Atlantic Fault goes, we had another large 5.1 earthquake. Happened at 1:24 a.m. this morning. North of Severnaya, Zemlya, way out in the Arctic Ocean, I believe, not even the Baltic Sea, but the Arctic Ocean. a large 5.1 earthquake. I don't think I've seen an earthquake this far north. Folks, it's happening. Every plate around the world is moving. Pretty soon there's going to be major earthquakes everywhere as the plates move. Yesterday we had a good-sized coronal mass ejection from the east side of the sun. It should only hit the Earth with a glancing blow, if at anything. It should hit the Earth on March 2nd, Saturday. Tomorrow is March 1st. So Saturday it should be hitting the Earth only with a glancing blow. It's going to be great for aurora watchers, but we're still going to see our share of plasma radiation. Not a great share, but some. It's going to also heat up the Earth and the plates of the Earth. That's what always happens. So starting Saturday, we're going to see a few more earthquakes unless we have another major solar eruption, and it's possible. There is a sunspot coming around the sun right now from the backside. And on the backside of the sun, it's been firing off a lot. So we very may well be having coronal mass ejections by the boatloads very soon. We know what that means. Be safe out there, guys. Be safe. I ask the Lord to bless you in every way possible. Blessings on each of your heads. I am a disciple of Jesus Christ. I love him. I am pronouncing a blessing on each of you. I love you. Please know that. God be with you this day and always. God be with you until we meet again. We're going to be back on the air tomorrow, same time, same station, just probably shortly after 5 p.m. Excuse me, not 5 p.m., shortly after 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Be here, be square. I look forward to seeing you here about 6 p.m., 6:15 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. We will see you soon. God bless you all. Good night, everybody.